Well, I've already been looking into college football for 2022. While I was doing that, I've decided to make a video about the top four coaches that I believe should be on the hot seat, starting from least hot to the worst case scenario. Number four, let's start with Mack Brown of North Carolina. This man started his North Carolina, uh, restarted his coaching career with North Carolina back in 2019. He recruited Sam Howell. He went 7-6 that year. And the following year, he won 8 games in that COVID year. A really good football team, produced some really good NFL running backs. This past year, not so much. He went from going to an Orange Bowl, losing the top five Texas A&M, to going to the Mayo Bowl, losing to a 3 or 4 win caliber, or really a 6-7 win team, South Carolina, who had Shane Beamer as a head coach who never coached before. You had Sam Howell. Your defense was not very good. Sam Howell's year wasn't great because he wasn't protected very well throughout the year anyway, and he was actually their leading rusher. So, Mack Brown, you're a national championship winning coach. You've won a lot of games. It also doesn't help you lost to Florida State. You've never beaten FSU. FSU didn't even get to a bowl game. Believe me, they're on this list too. But seriously, Mack Brown, get it together, man. This is your year. You better win games or you're up out of here. Speaking of up out of here, they wanted to get rid of this guy that I'm about to talk about before the season even started. Harsin's from Auburn. Man, let me tell you, even when I saw them lose to Penn State, I really thought they would have a good football team. Now, granted, I didn't think they'd have a chance with teams like Georgia or Alabama, and they didn't. If Alabama showed up and played their best game. But how do you go from winning 5 games with one loss, 6-1, you finish 6-7 with a loss to Houston, who? How in the world? And you got probably a top 3 running back in the SEC like Tank Bigsby. I don't understand how that works, but okay. And for some reason, they really wanted to get rid of this guy about a week or two ago. Luckily, he didn't go anywhere for Auburn. I get it's his first year, but Gus Malzahn never had a losing season with Auburn. And now this guy comes in after being a winner at Boise State. He comes to Auburn, and clearly he can't handle the competition. Clearly he's probably having problems with his players because Tank Bigsby wanted to leave at some point, and that's not good for him. So he needs to step it up a little bit. I get it's his first year, but still, it's inexcusable. You're at Auburn. You're expected to win. Speaking of being expected to win, good old Mike Norvell. Year one, I get it. COVID. You're picking up Willie Taggart's dumpster fire. But the problem is you're at Florida State. And even in their fight song says you got to win every game. If not every game, most of the state can. Come on, man. Georgia Tech, you lose to NC State back-to-back years. I get they're getting better, but still you're supposed to beat them. You haven't beat Louisville yet. Louisville is a losing team. You lose to Jacksonville State. Really, to be honest with you, the only thing that saved Mike Norvell this past year was getting an upset over the great Miami Hurricanes. But come on, man. 5-7, you lose to Florida without a head coach. And on top of that, probably the biggest disappointment is you recruit all these players. You get all these players from the transfer portal, like Jermaine Johnson, Keir Thomas, among many, many others, and you still can't have a winning season. Look, second year, I really considered his first year because the COVID year was cut short, and he did somehow manage to find a way to beat a top 5 team, really a top 25 great team like North Carolina, who was way overrated that year, let's be honest. So I think it's fair he has this year. And, I've already talked about how one game is going to go in 2022 for him. And if he wins 7 or 8 games, he should stay. But if he can't even win 7 games, he needs to go. Come on. LSU, I get that's probably not going to be a win unless LSU plays like crap, like how it's been played the last 2 years, and you manage to play a somehow perfect game like you did with Miami, and now that your players will get better. He needs to beat that team if he can. You also got Clemson, who's going down the toilet. You need to beat them because you're playing them at home now. But the problem is you got teams like Miami and Florida, top 10, top 15 quality teams in terms of talent and everything. So you got all, and the thing is, NC State's still around. They're getting better. So Florida State's going to have a lot to deal with, but that's whose problem? Mike Norvell's. Get it together or get out. FSU, my goodness. And I like Florida State too. Speaking of Florida State, this is the number 1 coach I think should be on the hot seat, and I think will probably get fired. Jimbo Fisher. Look, you're making what, 80, $90 million to win 7 or 8 games a year? You get a fluke win over Alabama. Whip-de-doo. What else did you do? Oh, wow, my starting quarterback got hurt. Okay. Or my second starting quarterback, not very good. Well, that's your problem. You've been recruiting 5 stars left and right. Your team has been getting better and better and better. Really, the Orange Bowl win, you did that at FSU, so what's so darn special about that against North Carolina, who was missing their starting running backs anyway? And you still couldn't beat Alabama that year with all the great talent. And you beat an Oklahoma version of Florida in a close game at home, giving up 38 points to a coach who's not even there anymore anyways. So Jimbo Fisher has a lot of work to do. I know he had this great recruiting class, the #1 recruiting class. He probably paid $30 million to get those guys over there, for all we know, even though to this day he denies it. Jimbo Fisher, man, and what's really disappointing is I think his first year he won, 9 games? Not great, but not bad either. Year 2, he's bragging about how he lost to top 5 Georgia, LSU, Alabama, among a few other teams. Oh, Clemson beat them pretty bad too. 2020 was COVID year. I'll give him that. That was a good year, but this past year he should have at least been in the playoffs. Not Michigan, not Cincinnati, and he still couldn't do it. So you lose to teams like Arkansas, and you lose to Mississippi State. You also lose to Texas A&M, who really shouldn't have been going to a bowl game anyway. Not A&M. You lost to LSU. Excuse me. So I hope if Jimbo can't make a playoff this year, he needs to go because he's making way too much money to be in this conference, not winning enough games. Alabama's not an excuse anymore. That's really what saved his job, in my opinion. So he needs to beat Alabama again, which I know he's not going to do. He's not going to Tuscaloosa getting that job done. He needs to beat all the other teams. And LSU actually has a really good head coach now, a winning coach. So good luck with that one. So we'll see what happens, but I think Jimbo Fisher is the #1 coach that I believe will get fired. If not midway through the season, after the season he's going to get let go of because he's making way too much money to not even win his conference, to not make the college football playoff, let alone win a national championship. So in my opinion, that's very, very, very disappointing. And even though he beat Alabama, Kirby Smart did it too in the national championship. So where it really matters, so it really doesn't matter. So yeah, we'll see.